What's up, everyone? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and this is kind of a re-upload slash reissue. I actually made a video about this topic last night, but I was really tired, and once I listened back to it again, I woke up this morning and I saw a bunch of negative comments, so I checked them out, and of course the video was playing while I was looking at the comments, and I realized that I actually, because I was so tired, I didn't come across clearly, and my thought process and just everything about it was really poorly communicated on my part. It's my own fault just for making videos when I'm tired. It's generally not a good idea. So I decided I'll take that video down. I'll re-record it now that I'm completely awake and it's a bit more coherent to me, and hopefully it gets my point across a bit more. So, no, just to be clear, no, I did not delete the video just because of negative comments. I've got much thicker skin than that. I mean, I'm Irish, for fuck's sake. We we can give better than we get. So, anyway, the whole thing about Shenmue 3 and then the Kickstarter. So this has been mulling around in my mind or so for about the past couple of weeks since it was announced, since the Kickstarter was announced at Sony's press conference on E3. Now, okay, yeah, the first couple of days, the fanboy in me and the hype was still emotions were running high. You know how it is. So I gave it about half a week, maybe a week, and then I started thinking about it longer and harder, and I started looking at some of the news and reports and stuff that was coming out. So some of the main things that bother me about this, and like I said, hopefully this becomes a lot more clear and concise and less rambly than my video yesterday. So the main thing is Sony's involvement. Now that's very questionable. Now, I do realize that Sony have said that, well, we're going to handle the marketing and the porting for the PS4 version. Now, that's according to one source. There's multiple sources saying all different stuff, some of which have been confirmed, some of which have not been disproved or not been unconfirmed is not the right word, but some of which have not been officially disproved. So it's still very sketchy on some of that. So the main thing is, yes, okay, what is Sony's involvement in it? Some people and some reports say that Sony are basically going to help with development. Some have just gone to say that Sony are taking up the marketing and costs to porting into PS4. And there's also there's comments out there and statements that have suggested that Sony will, the current top goal for the Kickstarter, the current stretch top goal is about 10 million on the Kickstarter. And when I previously checked it sometime yesterday, we were sitting just under 5 million. So there's sources and statements out there that have insinuated that Sony will make up the difference of what the Kickstarter doesn't do. Now, because as someone pointed out in the comments of the previous video, that may have been disproven, but I couldn't really find anything to guarantee disproof, so I'm still mentioning it, and it's still in my mind, weighing in a little bit on it. Now, so that's the whole Sony's involvement thing. And before I go any further, I just want to clarify and put out there clearly that I've been one of those people that has been campaigning for Shenmue 3 over the last 14 years. I played Shenmue 1 when it came out on the Xbox, or when it came out on the Dreamcast, Shenmue 2 when it came out on the Dreamcast, and then again when it came out on the Xbox 180. So I've been fairly adamant and fairly vocal about the entire thing this entire time. Not on YouTube, obviously, because I've only started making videos and using YouTube in this fashion fairly recently. But I'd sign, I'd make it known. I'd sign the petitions. I'd post it on forums. You'd see lists of places asking, what games would you finally like a remake or a sequel or a prequel to? Shenmue was always in there, so I was definitely always very adamant and very vocal about hopefully getting this around. Anyway, this brings me to my next one, and the main thing is about the Kickstarter. It's not like the interest was not there. Now, I'm not saying that, but I'm not saying that on a purely Kickstarter note. It's also to do with comments from Sony. Sony have also heavily implied, or the way I understood some of their statements, they've basically said, well, we wanted to make, now this is Sony, not Yu Suzuki, so we wanted to make this game, but we weren't sure the interest was there, and we wanted to gauge the interest of the game by putting a small goal of, at the time it was 2 million, to gauge interest. And now, again, this is my interpretation of it, of what they had said, that if the interest was there by indicated by that 2 million, we would fund the game. Now that goes back to the point I made first. That was the first point I made. So again, one of the users on YouTube did point out that has been I won't say slightly disproven, but there are statements that will kind of contradict it, but there's nothing that will outright guarantee or outright disprove it, which is it may, you can call me conspiracy theory tinfoil hat, but this is the games industry in 2015, and I have damn well buckets on buckets on buckets of proof to be cynical in this matter. As much as I trust Yu Suzuki to make a brilliant game, and the fact that his passion is actually definitely there in Shenmue series, and it's definitely there for making Shenmue 3, he does have other, there are other things to take into consideration. I mean, if it was just up to Yu Suzuki, I'm sure, let's say money wasn't an issue, I'm sure we would have had it a long time ago. We would have had the best of the best of the best version of Shenmue 3 if there wasn't other factors and all to take into consideration. So that brings me back to what I was talking about anyway, which is the second point, which is the Kickstarter. Now, this may be a kind of a personal beef. It's more so a personal beef. But the fact is, everything at the moment has indicated that once the game is actually finished development and is ready to be released to the public, that it's only going to have digital release. So it's only going to have a digital release on the PSN and what's most likely going to be on Steam. Now, unless you specifically donate certain amounts to the Kickstarter, currently they sit at there's 2 rewards at the $60 mark. Some of the rewards above that, like the $100 or $500, 10 grand, all that kind of shit. Some of those will include the $60 one that I'm about to go into the description of. But they basically, as it is now, this is all prone to change, but the only way to get a physical copy of the game is by donating through Kickstarter. Donating at least $60 or a set amount above $60 through Kickstarter. Now, that bothers me. That bothers me. I said that yesterday, and that does bother me, because on my own personal aspect of it, I prefer having a physical edition of a game whenever possible. And I would love, after all the hard campaigning and the hoping and praying of these 14 plus years, to actually have a box to say Shenmue 3 up there sitting beside my Shenmue 1, Shenmue 2 and Xbox version of Shenmue 2 as well. So to have all 4 of those sitting together, that's a big, a monumental occasion kind of thing, if you will. Now, okay, some people can argue console games are more expensive. So people will say, it's like, yeah, well, if you donate $60, you can get what's probably going to be a $60, $65, $70, $75 game. Okay, I can understand that a little bit. I did say in my video last night that I understood that as well. But looking at it from a PC perspective as well, I mean, realistically, is having a box 15 to 20 euro more expensive? Is that worth it? Now, I'm not going to go completely on a rant on that one, because I did yesterday and it really fucked up the point in my opinion. But it comes back to the whole thing about the price of digital games, the price of physical games, and with the whole thing with the specific Kickstarter goals. Now, I personally, I like I said a million times now, I love Shenmue. I'm absolutely over the moon that the game is actually ready to be started being made, and it's going to be out sometime in the next few years, God willing. So I'm really happy and all about that. However, for two reasons, I personally, as much as I kind of want to, and possibly want as much as I want that physical edition of the game, but we'll see how it goes. I know the Kickstarter is running out fairly soon, but I can't justify myself to donate to this Kickstarter. The two main reasons for that is, one, I personally don't believe in funding stuff on Kickstarter. The idea of Kickstarter is great. We wouldn't have so many spiritual successors, which is the new kind of buzz type of game going on at the moment. We wouldn't have so many of them that we, that we're going to have if it wasn't for Kickstarter. Mighty Number 9, I can't. Blood something, it's the spiritual successor to Castlevania. It looks awesome. Blood, I think it might be Bloodstained. It escapes me. I had it in my head at the start of this video, but it's just gone at the moment. So we wouldn't have things like that, and of course, at the same time, we wouldn't have Shenmue 3. So we most likely wouldn't have Shenmue 3. That's what I'll say. I don't want to say we absolutely wouldn't have it, because who knows where stuff would have been. So that's my main belief on not funding Kickstarters. And to do the second point of which is the fact that people like me have been adamantly campaigning and all for it. You can argue that someone in my position should be overjoyed at the thought of being able to personally fund it to actually make it happen, but that just stems back to my first one. I've nothing against the prospect of Kickstarter. I just personally don't believe if I was going to fund a game, I would throw millions at someone before I would if I was even going to consider funding a game. I would throw millions of dollars, euro, billions of yen, whatever you want to call it, at a person. I would go big or go home, really. Simply because if I had the money, Shenmue 3 would have happened 10 years ago. That's all I could have said. If I had the money, I would have went to you, Suzuki, and I would have said, you, or Suzuki-san, whatever you want to call it, however you want to address him, here is a blank check, make Shenmue 3, and then fill out the number. It would have been that simple. That's just how I roll. I realize you can say it's a token. The Kickstarter rewards and donations are tokens, or they're gestures, but it's just not. It doesn't work like that for me, and hopefully that is not my only way to get a physical edition. We'll see how it goes anyway. It's a couple of years before the game comes out. It's hopefully scheduled, according to the Kickstarter, for Q4 2017. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, let me know in the comment section below what you think about anything I've said here and the Kickstarter. Let me know all that in the comment section. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter, details in the description below. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you on the rest of the videos in my channel.